Okay, so what is the biggest factor that undermines progress and achievement? Stress. And stress can be defined as the body's reaction to any change that requires a response. It can be emotional, physical, or mental, but the key word is response. You see, stress doesn't contain whatever happens to you, but rather how you take it and interpret it to yourself. There's no such thing as a stressful situation, but only stressful responses. And everybody pays a high price when they don't manage their stress. Up till 80% of physical illness is due to psychological reasons, the main being stress, as it's connected to cancer, strokes, migraine headaches, and other serious conditions. If there's one good thing about stress is that it's learned, and therefore it can be unlearned. And so since we were children, we've learned to react to situations in a certain way, which soon became habits. And fortunately, we can change those habits. Personally, I'd categorize stress into 5 different factors, or 5 main reasons. First, starting with worry. So worry is a fear caused by indecisiveness, and as people worry more, they become chronic worriers. And unfortunately, that causes a lot of stress to people. So live one day at a time, because most of what we stress about is what we assume is going to happen in the future, which doesn't end up happening anyway. Just like they say, cross the bridge once you come to it, not before, not repeatedly. The best solution you can do is to determine the worst possible case scenario and to come to peace with that. And then once you've accepted that, you can work on improving upon the worst, so you don't have time to think about the problem because you're too busy taking action toward the solution. The second reason, which may not be very common, would be basically having no meaning or purpose. It is when you don't have enough goals, or when you don't set goals because you're unsure about what you want to do. This is also linked to poor time management, since people can't effectively organize what they're going to do because they don't know what they want to do. Surprisingly, just the act of making a list of goals will get you excited. And because our brains are programmed in a way that we feel good about ourselves once we are working toward the achievement of something important to us. The third reason would be known as incomplete action. And so we all know that we feel stressed and unhappy and overwhelmed once we leave something undone, and relieved and joyful once we finish our job. This is due to the urge of completion which humans have. And so stress coming from an incomplete action can be very distracting, as it doesn't allow you to focus on what you're doing for too long, because it'll constantly remind you of what you still have left to finish. The best solution is to have enough self-discipline to stay with a task until it's complete. And so this immediately relieves stress and even increases your energy. Next would be known as fear of failure, and this fear is manifested by anxiety and worry. So everybody has a fear of some kind, and as you worry more and basically stress, you only start thinking about ways to avoid failure instead of taking action toward what you want to achieve. So fear of failure is a conditioned response since childhood, and as you face your fears, they diminish and grow smaller. And as you move away from a person or a situation which causes a fear, it can grow and actually grow and take control over your whole life. So a simple way to deal with fear is to basically repeat the affirmation, I can, as it cancels out the feeling of I can't. And then you confront the fear and you face it. Ask yourself, what is the worst thing that can happen if I go ahead? And then ask, what is the best solution, or what is the best thing that can happen when it's successful? And you'll always find that the benefit from confronting your fear is always significant, while the results of the worst possible case scenario is quite small. Remember that failure is never final. It only teaches you the lessons you need to succeed. So keep confronting your fears till it becomes a habit. Finally, I'd like to talk about denial, and I've read enough about denial to say that it is the core of stress, unhappiness, and many other psychosomatic illnesses. So you slip into denial when you don't want to face an unpleasant reality, when you don't want to admit that something in your life isn't going too well, or that you've changed your mind about something. And apart from basically stress and emotional numbness, denial also affects our bodies. It triggers insomnia, digestive problems, and even depression. To further explain, denial is always accompanied with a fear of embarrassment when you don't want to admit that something in your life or when you don't want to admit that you may not be the person you appear to be, or that you've changed your mind about something. So people who confront their problems are far healthier than the ones who just avoid them or hope they'll go away. Even by eventually confronting your problems, you become more self-reliant and confident. And so the key question is, what is it in my life that I'm not facing? And whatever it is, you must face it. There's always a price to pay, and you must pay that price, because you can't exchange your peace of mind for anything, because you end up with neither of these things. It is a part of our human nature that demands us to be true to ourselves, and when we're not, we end up suffering from consequences. And so our goal is to reduce stress as much as possible. To do that, we must take control of our thoughts and emotional responses, and we must always set goals for ourselves. Decide to let go of any anger or resentment, and finally set peace of mind as your highest goal, and decide to align your thoughts and behavior to that. Thank you.